Thursday. But Friday, even though I'm doing the show that night, I don't want meetings. I don't want to have to do all these other things on that day because you got the whole weekend and nothing's going to get done. I like to do it during the first 4 days, and then you can wrap things up.
Yes, exactly. It's a wrapping up day. It's not a thinking of some new idea day.
That's so true. That's so true. But isn't it true, though, that people will determine their own destiny? So if you think bad things are going to happen on Friday the 13th, they will.
Well, yes, that's a big part of it. As a psychiatrist, we know that if you approach a day or any kind of superstition or any kind of feeling that you have, it doesn't even have to do with superstitions, but just if you think you're going to fail a test or you think whatever it is, those negative thoughts can really gel in your unconscious mind and cause these things to happen. And of course, another way of looking at that is the law of attraction, that if you think about and focus on all these negative things, that you'll attract these negative things to you. So whenever this kind of thing happens and you're worried about something like Friday the 13th, and lo and behold, there's bound to be something happening that's not great on this day, then people can say, well, of course, it's Friday the 13th.
You're a psychiatrist. You've seen a lot of people. How powerful is the mind?
It's not just, the mind is incredibly powerful, not just as far as behavior, but as far as physical kinds of things, too. The impact of stress, the impact of anticipating certain kinds of things, the symbolism, when you're paralyzed with fear, for example. Things like that can cause actual physical consequences of these psychological phenomena. And, it's besides the mind being powerful in a general sense, what people don't want to believe, a lot of people don't want to believe, but I've been seeing this every single day, is that it's not just about the things that are happening in our life now. We are impacted so much still, no matter what age we are, by the things that happened in our childhood. And people don't want to think that because especially if they've had a bad childhood, they don't want to think that they're, that's inhibiting them in some way or that could be responsible for things in their current life. But it's just amazing how you can trace things to issues, problems, traumas that happen in childhood.
Well, there's no question about it. I think it's in that childhood that has created most of these superstitions.
Yes.
Looking at your parents or whatever.
Yes, this idea, it's sort of like the beginning of man, the childhood of man, when we really had so much less knowledge than we have now. We're still essentially in our infancy, but when we didn't understand about the sun and the moon, and, we had to try to make stories up to explain all of these different phenomena. And so, we make up stories that then get connected to events that become superstitions.
Why do people have phobias? Why are they afraid?
Well, it is this uncertainty. It is it's a fear, it's a lack of control. It's a feeling that, just when you think you know how to do something or how the world turns, something comes up that is either dangerous to you physically or psychologically, or dangerous, a parent dies and you don't understand why. There are just so many complexities. And of course, phobias, are more than, there's general free-floating anxiety, and then there are specific kinds of phobias. They talk about there being an animal type of phobia, a natural environment type, blood injection injury type, situational type, and then other types that include everything else that we're afraid of.
I don't think I have a lot of phobias, and I'm definitely not claustrophobic, but I'll tell you a story, Carol, and you tell me what was wrong with me. A couple of years ago, just had to do a quick MRI check. I twisted my back, and he just wanted to make sure I didn't hurt any bones or anything. So into this MRI machine we go, me being the two Geminis that I am, and this thing was about 3 inches from the tip of my nose. That's how close this tube was to my body. They give you a little button to hold, and they say, push the button if you begin to panic. Now, they're telling me this before I even go into this machine. And I'm going, what do you mean?
Yes.
What am I going to panic about? They said, just trust us. If it gets to a point where you start to panic, you push the button, and the nurse will come out and get you out.
Huh.
And I said, well, okay. So it was a 20-minute test, okay? I had to be in there for 20 minutes. They put me on this gurney-type thing, and they push the button, and it slides me in. So I'm in there for about 18 minutes while the machine's doing whatever it does. I only have 2 more minutes to go. I'm doing okay. The nurse says, you must have moved. We got to do it over again.
Oh, God.
So for some reason, it hits me, and I can't stay in there. And I squeeze the button, and I tell her, I says, just wheel me out of this thing. Get me out of here now. She says, we're not done yet. And I said, I don't care. Get me out of this thing now. And so she pushes the button, and out I come. What happened to me?
Well, you were the victim of not a very clever nurse or a very clever person who put you in there to begin with. I mean, yes, that power of suggestion, I mean, it's just like when you get an injection and you're not supposed to look at the needle, or you get blood drawn and you're not supposed to look at the needle. They've done studies that show that if you don't look at the needle, you don't see it before you get stuck, it actually hurts less.
That's true.
And they did put in the power of suggestion, that there is something to be afraid of, instead of, I mean, it's nice to have this button to know that you can be released, but on the other hand, the way that it was presented, it's like there's going to be something dangerous.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Carol, we're going to take this break. I want to come back and talk with you a little bit more about that, and also get into some doomsday phobias. People who actually fear 2012, May 21st of this year, and some other dates. Let's find out why. I'm George Norrie, back in a moment with Dr. Carol Lieberman as we talk about phobias on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back. We're with Dr. Carol Lieberman. Carol, let's get back to my MRI episode before we get into some doomsday phobias here. So they basically set me up to fail, didn't they?
Yes, absolutely. And, there are so many things that can be done to relax someone before they go into that kind of a procedure. Yes, I mean, already giving you the idea that there's going to be something to be scared about, and then telling you that you didn't do a good job, that you needed to be in there 2 more minutes. It brings back, I mean, of course, psychologically, the first thing I thought of was being in the womb. Did something traumatic happen to you?
Well, no, I don't
when
think
you were
so.
in your mother's womb?
But I'll tell you what bothers me the most. Not being able to move when I want to move.
Yes.
That I don't like.
Yes, it's the lack of control. It's the sense that if something did happen, how would you get out of there?
You heard the story of the guy who was dying, and he told his family, I'm afraid of being buried in a casket, and I'm petrified of being buried alive. And they went, oh, Dad, come on. And he said, no, I want you, when I die, I want you to put a cell phone in my casket in case something happens. And they went, come on, Dad. He said, please. So they said, sure, we will. Well, guess what? He dies. And the family's talking, and his son said, look, I promised Dad I was going to put this cell phone in his casket. And they said, come on, don't do that. That's a waste of money. Don't do that. He said, look, I promised him I would. So he drops the cell phone in the casket, and they close it, and they bury the guy. Guess what? He wakes up. He's not dead, Carol. He's scratching at the top of the casket. He realizes he asked for a cell phone. He reaches over, he grabs it, he turns it on. It says no service.
I knew there was going to be
my joke. But that's a phobia.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And there are often times, there are, if you had some kind of experience when you were young, I mean, besides the womb, where they're, being accidentally locked in a closet or accidentally locked in a classroom or, some kind of similar experience, then you're more vulnerable to having an experience like being in an MRI machine affect you.
Well, that's true. Now, doomsday phobias. Let's go through some dates. First of all, not knocking Christianity by any means, because I'm one. But there's a group of people out there that truly believe that on May 21st of this year, only a few days from now, that they're going to be taken, biblically, they're going to be taken, and that those who are left behind were stuck here until October 21st when the planet literally ends. They actually believe this. I'm getting emails from some people who believe this, and they're very upset that I'm taking it lightly because I've asked these people to come back on my show Monday, which is the 23rd or 4th, I think, and it's the 23rd, and they say they're going to be gone. They can't come on. But, I mean, why do people actually think they're going to be gone on May 21st? Well,
there is this man, Harold Camping, as
that's him.
Family radio evangelist who has been spreading this gospel that's the day, that's the last day. It's doomsday phobia is fear of the end of the world. It's connected to fear of one's own mortality, because it's not just about whether the world is going to end, it's when their world, their life is going to end.
So the Bible says no man knows the time or day. Mm-hmm. So how can he pick the time and day?
Well, according to him, he's looked at different things in the Bible and, it came to this day, but he also had said that about a previous day, and it wasn't true. But, people are, I think that the real problem is that because the world is so uncertain today more than ever, all the things that you talk about, certainly with terrorism or the fear of terrorism or whatever is going on in the political world, you were talking about the earth. There are so many things we know more now than we did hundreds of years ago, but at the same time, there seems to be more that's threatening us, or at least that's so much unknown that seems to be threatening us. And so when someone says something like this, it's easier today to get people to believe these kinds of things because people are sort of floating around, not really knowing what to believe or what's the truth. And, you probably read this story about a man in New York City who spent all of his retirement savings. He's 60 years old. He spent $140,000 for an ad campaign in subway cars and bus shelters that say global earthquake, the greatest ever, Judgment Day, May 21st. And he was influenced, of course, by this Harold Camping. It's so sad that when May 22nd comes around, that he's going to be broke.
Now, if they're taken, you and I are going to be kicking each other all night long here. I always got to keep the door open for the possibility we're wrong. You know that.
That's true. Yeah, it's true. We don't really know. In fact, there's a psychologist named B.F. Skinner who talked about, he did experiments with pigeons. And he talked about how these pigeons would do certain rituals, turn in a circle or bob their head in a